Welcome to U.S. Immigration TV, and thanks for watching. In a previous video, I discussed how President Biden and the Democrats introduced the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. Well, it was a massive bill covering a variety of immigration issues and reforms, including a pathway to U.S. citizenship for approximately 11 million undocumented non-citizens who are now in the U.S. Well, unfortunately, that bill has stalled in Congress, and many commentators believe it will be an uphill battle to have such a massive bill passed in Congress. Well, in the meantime, the Democrats are introducing additional immigration bills in piecemeal fashion so that rather than having one comprehensive immigration bill covering comprehensive immigration reform, they're breaking it down into several separate bills, one of which is granting legalization to DACA recipients and other dreamers. Now, I know these young people, for background, are being referred to as dreamers. So where did this name come from? Well, it came from a bill introduced many years ago called the DREAM Act, which stood for Development, Relief, and Education for Alien Minors Act, or the DREAM Act, the first letter of each of those words. So now, who would qualify for this new Dream and Promise Act, and what are the chances of it being passed? Well, basically, the Dream and Promise Act would provide a 10-year pathway to legalization and citizenship. Initially, the Dreamers would be granted conditional permanent resident status for 10 years. And in order to be eligible, the person must have been physically present in the U.S. on or before January 1st, 2021, or before New Year's. Now, even though this bill has not yet been passed, I would strongly recommend that people already start gathering their documents to show that they were in the U.S. before New Year's. School records, doctor records, lease agreements, and other things. In other words, don't move and throw all those paperworks away. Another requirement is that they were 18 years old or younger when they originally entered the U.S. Well, this expands the eligibility requirement for DACA, where the person had to have entered the U.S. before their 16th birthday. Well, now it's the 18th birthday. The person is not inadmissible or ineligible to enter the U.S. on such grounds as criminal, security and terrorism, smuggling, student visa abuse, unlawful voting, and other reasons. They have not been convicted of any offense punishable by a term of imprisonment for more than 1 year, or committed 3 or more offenses where the total amount of imprisonment or jail time was 90 days or more. They cannot have committed crimes of domestic violence. In other words, the person must have been law-abiding. And here's a word of caution and advice. If a person has such criminal issues, they should definitely see an attorney before applying so they don't find themselves in removal proceedings. Another requirement to be eligible for this new DREAM Act is that the person had graduated from high school, obtained a GED, or are in a program assisting students in obtaining a high school diploma or GED. They must pass a security and law enforcement background check and register for selective service if required. Now, selective service is the military. It's generally for males between the age of 18 and 25. In order to obtain full lawful permanent resident status, remember, they're conditional. Now, to be full permanent residents, the person must obtain a degree from a U.S. institution of higher education or complete at least 2 years in a bachelor degree program or in a technical program, or they have at least 2 years of military service with an honorable discharge. Therefore, it seems that Congress wants young applicants to become educated and graduate, and that's a good thing because so many people have come to the U.S. because of the educational opportunities. Now it would seem that it's a requirement to get a green card. Another requirement is the applicant must have been employed for at least 3 years, and at least 75% of that time should have been working with an employment authorization. This bill would also grant in-state tuition to undocumented students and give them access to federal financial aid. And if the dreamer had already been deported during the Trump administration, they could apply from abroad. Now, I think this bill will have a good chance of passing. Both the Democrats and the Republicans have expressed sympathy and compassion for these young dreamers. In fact, I recall that when Trump was first elected president, he did say he was in favor of granting legalization for DACA recipients, but he also wanted, as a trade-off, $5 billion to build the wall on the southern border, which the Democrats rejected. So that never happened. And I also think that this bill addresses most of the concerns, criticisms, and arguments that the Republicans may have in granting legalization. This is because the requirements are the person must be law-abiding, they have to be educated, and they have to be hardworking. So therefore, the Republicans can't argue that somehow this is offering legalization to criminals or undesirables. We're simply offering a pathway to citizenship to young people who would be able to work for many years and pay their taxes. And I also believe that the Republicans strategically had hoped to use the DACA kids as a bargaining chip or a trade-off, where they would agree to grant legalization to dreamers provided the Democrats, give the Republicans something that they want in return. Because that's the basis of negotiations. Perhaps we'll give you DACA, like Trump said, but give us border security. But now with this standalone bill for dreamers, it would take some of the leverage away from the Republicans in their bargaining attempts. But still, let's just hope politicians can finally put politics aside and do the right thing. And also, I think that while comprehensive immigration reform may not pass right now, let's at least get whatever bills we can be passed and then move further rather than having, this all or nothing attitude. Maybe once the dreamers are legalized and things are going well, legalization can be expanded. For example, maybe to the parents of U.S. citizens, as was tried under DAPA. That was to give citizenship or legalization to parents of U.S. citizen children, but then it was blocked in the courts. But I do believe that this is a positive step, a positive sign, and is a developing story. We will continue to keep you informed on this and other developments in immigration reform because I know so many of you out there are looking for a way to legalize. Therefore, don't forget to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel. I'm Michael Gurfinkel, and this is U.S. Immigration TV.